Hello and welcome back to another interview here on the Script Heroes channel. Today we're talking to Cullen Bunn, iconic creator of all sorts of things across all your favorite universes. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, he's done work for Green Lantern, of course Harrow County, and stuff that you've seen us do here on the pod, including Jump Scare, which was a recent fave. We read Arcana Royale. Way back in the day we read Invasive, before it became too scary for me. And another favorite was my Monsters Are My Business, and My Business is Bloody. So we got all sorts of fun stuff to talk about with Cullen, and we also have fun stuff for you, the listener. Jay, what are we running here?
We got a giveaway of Cullen Bunn's new upcoming book with new publisher Ignition Press, Deluge. We're going to be giving away a signed copy of the Ignition Press exclusive cover. So That's a lot of fun. You're going to have to stay tuned until then. Yes, fresh from New York Comic Con. And you're going to have to stay tuned until the end of the video if you want to learn how to enter this giveaway, which you should do because it's a great interview. You just have to get like 10 seconds in and Cullen Bunn is dropping some great drama for us. So,
which we appreciate as a couple of nosy little goobers. But you obviously want to hear Cullen talk, not us. So let's go right into the interview.
Okay, so today we are joined by Cullen Bunn, one of the most prolific writers, I think, in comics currently. He's worked on The Sixth Gun, Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, Magneto, Sinestro, Beyond Mortal, Harrow County, Deluge, Ultimate Oz Universe, and so many more books that I can't name unless we want to be here for 5 hours. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Cullen.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
And we'd almost always start straight with questions, but I do want to just quickly tell you a story because you are a very important writer to me becoming a comic book fan, because about 9 years ago now, I decided I wanted to start reading comic books. I was a big Green Lantern fan from the Justice League show, so I went to the comic book store and flipped through the bin until I saw a book with Jon Stewart on the cover, and that book was Green Lantern Lost Army, and I bought the first 3 issues, went home, read this book, and immediately fell in love with the medium. Led to me, eventually writing comics, meeting Katie, and starting this podcast. So we wouldn't be here without you.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. I was just looking at that book a day or two ago. I was flipping through it again. So
I love it. It's so incredibly, like, it's such a good sell on Green Lantern because you have all of these lanterns low on power. Awesome. So cool.
I'm glad you thought so.
I did. I loved it. I was such a huge fan immediately. I went back to the store
I really enjoyed that book, and I had such big plans for where that was going to go. And then bad things happened, I guess.
Part of me wanted to ask you why you didn't write the follow-up, because they did Edges of Oblivion, and you obviously didn't write that, and it took a pretty, I think, hard turn from the direction that Lost Army was going in.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah, I would love the truth. You're willing to tell me the truth.
I'll give it to you right now. I had been offered an exclusive with DC, and I had planned on taking that exclusive. But when I called their offices, and I had a face-to-face meeting, and this was while I was writing Green Lantern: The Lost Army, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know for sure, I think the exclusive included me taking over the Green Lantern side of things and doing all Green Lantern.
That would have been awesome.
And there was a huge plan that would take Green Lantern: The Lost Army. It was going to roll into Sinestro and Lobo, and all those cosmic books were all going to roll together into this big event. But when I called to sign the exclusive, or to finalize the exclusive, they told me, well, you've got to cancel Harrow County, which had not come up in the original discussions. And they said, you've got to cancel this book I was doing, Regression. The first issue hadn't even come out. The artist had already drawn 6 or 7 issues without even being paid. And I said, I can't do that. That's unfair to the artist. This is months and months of work that he will get nothing for if we do this. And they said, hey, that's okay. You know what? We can't do the exclusive now then, which was weird. I don't know why they couldn't do carve-outs for those 2 projects. Don't worry about it. We'll just continue on as we were. All well and good. I got a call a couple of days later. It's probably a couple of weeks later. And someone said, someone said, hey, so I'm working on this book for Green Lantern, and I just I want to make sure it lines up with what you've done, and here's what I'm doing. And they start describing Lost Army, and I was like, wait a minute, have I been fired from Lost Army and no one's bothered to tell me that? And the truth of the matter was, they just hired someone. I think it was who wrote that second series?
Tom Taylor, I believe, wrote.
Tom, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I realized they just stealth fired me from the book.
God.
And
That's insane.
they stealth fired me from everything because
Oh my god.
because Dan DiDio was so hurt that I didn't sign the exclusive. So that ended my career with DC. It was that whole thing.
Insane.
So yeah, it was all a lot of dirty pool, and I don't mind saying it because that's all what happened.
Yeah, we don't usually start that quite that heavy in the drama.
Look, it's fine. I'm not even upset about it, except that I really had big plans for that series, and I thought it would have been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt set up for big plans. I mean, you end off with like the Hal Jordan reveal behind the source wall, and then it's just like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah, I don't know what happened in the second series, and I'm almost certain that Tom had no clue what had been written in the first series. Like, he had not been informed.
It's not a smooth transition.
Yeah,
and I was so confused.
It just wasn't a very smart way of handling that situation. But yeah, that it all came from the fact that I couldn't sign an exclusive.
That's insane.
With DC at the moment, and they just got really or one person got really upset about that. So
that's wild.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was that much behind it. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't see all that. A lot of readers, they never know that kind of stuff is what's going on in comics, and it goes on far, far more often than it should.
Wow.
But that's fine. Look, I would. It was going to be a big Sinestro Corps thing because the Lanterns were going to finally return to Earth or to our universe, and they'd be powered up with these, the stuff from the progenitors or whatever they were called, and they were going to find that Sinestro and the Sinestro Corps had just proliferated, and the world was peaceful. The universe was peaceful. It was totalitarian. It was,
that's kind of Sinestro's thing.
it was, but it was peaceful and it was working. Okay. And the Green Lantern, but there were going to be a lot of dark, terrible elements to that. Yeah. And then the Green Lanterns were going to wage war on the Sinestro Corps. It was going to be the second Sinestro Corps war, but it was going to be from the other side of things, with the Green Lanterns being this insurgency trying to break the.
I didn't think I could get even more disappointed 9 years later that
I just thought I needed to give you some disappointment right away. I needed to just upset you right away. I mean, I was disappointed. I was terribly disappointed.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But yeah, let's rewind a little bit, because we usually start with the question of how'd you get your start in comics? We jumped to something obviously deeper into your career there. But how'd you get started making comic books?
Well, Dan DiDio really pissed me off, so I just decided to get in the comic. No. I always wanted to tell stories. I've always loved comics. I didn't care how I was telling stories. I wrote short stories. I wrote poems. I wrote all sorts of nonsense. And I was pitching stuff left and right, trying to get into comics, trying to get into prose. So it's just a matter of, it was things I loved. And so I was bound to try to break into comics.
Oh yeah.
It took me a long, long time to break into comics because I didn't know how to do it. I mean, I was sending Marvel my favorite, my Ghost Rider pitches and my my Moon Knight pitches and my Werewolf by Night pitches. By the way, all of those things were never going to get picked up by anybody, but especially not by someone who was just pitching, sending them in. And then I got into comics. I got a degree in creative writing, and with that degree, I got a job in a comic book store. As you do.
Yeah.
And but that was actually it was a blessing in disguise, because that's where I met Brian Hurt, the artist on The Damned and The Six Gun and The Midnight Show, who's become one of my best friends. And we started talking about doing comics together. It still took us another 10 years to get The Damned off its feet, but so it took me a long time to figure out how to actually uh, navigate the waters of comics and how to break in. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I just always loved comics. I mean, always. Uh, I grew up in the era where we could go to garage sales and buy like stacks of for $5 I could
Oh
get
yeah.
50 random comics in a grocery sack, and I would just dive into them. No clue what was going on in continuity or from one issue to the next. I was just reading them and just loving them.
That's phenomenal. I mean, it took a while to break in, but you've certainly shattered your way in. I
Yeah, and that's a lot of people. Why do you? I worked so hard at it because it took so long to get in. It was something I wanted to do, something I love. So now I don't want to let go, and I'm just I'm always running to. It's almost as if I'm still chasing the dream I had when I was a kid. So I'm still chasing that dream, trying to make it happen, and that can only be accomplished by writing all the comics.
And you are doing your best to write all of the comics.
From like a writing side of things, what's like your workflow with so many comics happening at the same time, just kind of one after the other as well?
Well, right now I'm writing fewer comics right now than I have in decades. I mean, since I started, this is the fewest comics at the time I'm writing. It's very nice. It's nice to be in a place where I can do that. So I don't have as much having to balance the different stories and manage the different stories, but I've always been pretty good when it comes to segmenting, and partitioning what I'm working on. And I don't usually write like three comics at the same time. Like three, I won't be like knee deep in three different scripts at the same
Right,
time,
right.
because that way leads madness. But I've always been pretty good at being able to work on one, get that script where I want it to be, submit it, and then immediately turn to whatever the next project is. Uh, I take a lot of notes, I do a lot of outlining, but it's just there's something in my brain that allows me to partition those off. And I might, in between, I might need to listen to some music that maybe is inspiring to whatever I'm working on next, or watch a show, or read a comic or a story that is sort of more in the same line of what I'm doing next, to just, get the gears moving in that direction. But it doesn't take long. I don't typically wait like a few days between books. Once I'm done with a script, I'm ready to get to the next thing.
That's so
Awesome.
phenomenal. Love that.
But speaking of all the stuff you've going on, you're also I believe, the creative director of Outland Entertainment, a publisher that you publish a lot of books through. They do books,
Is that my
games,
title?
comics. It's what it says on the site. I really enjoy a lot of the books that you've done through Outland. The Far Away, I think, is just such an incredible concept. But how did you come to be a part of Outland Entertainment? How did Outland Entertainment come to exist?
It's been such a weird. That's all been a very weird ride. I was a fan when I was a kid of Aircell Comics, and they published a book called Warlock 5. They published a book called Elf Lord. They also Aircell also published a lot of sort of softcore porn comics, which I wasn't into. I promise, I really wasn't. I wasn't into them. But
Only the
I mean,
ones with the elves.
right? But they were these black and white comics in an era when I was really into superheroes, and then those books came along and they just seemed so interesting and different and unusual. Dragon Ring was another book they did, which was sort of this pulp Lovecraftian adventure, Indiana Jones meets Lovecraftian creatures kind of thing. And I just loved those books. And I think over Twitter years ago, I just happened to mention them. I was like, oh, I sure do love that old comic Dragon Ring was one of my favorites, or Warlock 5 is one of my favorite comics. And someone responded and said, well, you need to get in touch with whoever this guy was who had over the years bought all the rights to all the Aircell books. So I started talking to him a little bit, and then he sold his publishing company, which I can't remember the name, Ragnarok, maybe something. He sold his publishing company to Jeremy Moeller, who's the owner of Outland Entertainment. So I started talking to Jeremy, and we kind of hit it off. We like the same kind of things. We like, the same kind of stories. They were working on a lot of cool stuff, and we've just become friends over the years. And I've become more and more involved in doing, and I edit a line of horror content for Outland. And then I'm going to be editing their Sword and Sorcery magazine, Tales from the Magician's Skull. I'm taking over as editor in chief of that, and it's just we had similar interests, and we connected on that kind of stuff. And what's really cool is Outland now, Jeremy, they're opening their own comic shop. So in Kansas City, they're opening a brick and mortar comic shop that's coming up. So there's a lot of cool stuff in the works with Outland, and I think that's really, I just like surrounding myself with people who have crazy ideas and are willing to take chances, and willing to succeed or fail. They go for it, and I'm a fan of that. There's something super inspiring about that, and it energizes me when people are doing these things. Now I might say, and this is not about Outland. Maybe it's more about my friend. I have a friend, Jimmy Z. Johnston, who I write some books with occasionally. He's got the craziest ideas, and I might, I'm like, oh, that's never going to work, but God bless him for trying. I love that I love people who just have these, these insane ideas, and they just go for it.
That's phenomenal. It all comes back to everybody dreaming, right? That's so fun.
Yeah, it's when we stop dreaming of brainstorming and daydreaming about the big crazy thing we're going to do next, I mean, things get real boring, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Well, Outland also publishes a RPG system that you developed called Quill Codex. It's rules light and storytelling forward, which I think is the best way to play RPGs. What's really wild about it is the kind of official module for it, this giant mega dungeon, is being released level by level. What inspired you to release it in this format?
I just with Quill Codex, which is a complete role-playing game, it's free. You can download it right now from Outland Entertainment's website. You can download the role-playing game, and it's ready to go. All you need is dice and some paper. And then we started doing this this level-by-level dungeon. It was just I had started around the time that I was really leaning into Quill Codex. Some friends and I were like, let's take a Moleskine notebook and just draw a dungeon level every day and just populate it with, just do something dumb every day as a hobby, like almost like sketching. So I was doing that anyway, and I was like, well, maybe we just, start kind of releasing. Damon Rot is the name of the module. We said maybe we release it like that, and you can play it even if you don't play Quill Codex. It's it's a dungeon level you could port into Dungeons and Dragons or Daggerheart or any other game system you want to play. Now we have sort of some big plans for Quill Codex and Damon Rot and everything that'll probably change our delivery model a little bit, but there's always going to be that sort of serialized feel to it.
Which is so fun. I feel like that's not...
I'm probably not supposed to say this, but like I've written a solo adventure for Damon Rot that's it's almost like it's like a choose your own adventure or a lone wolf book. So it's got rules and dice and your characters are dying left and right, but it's all played solo. That we're working on right now. The first big chunk of that is done. So we just got a lot of stuff we're going to do to kind of keep those ideas and those properties out there.
That's so cool. I love that.
That's awesome. But I think it's also very fair to say that you are a huge fan of the horror genre. You write a lot of horror comic books. We've talked a lot on the pod about how horror kind of operates, I think, a little bit differently in comic books versus other mediums. Because you can't really jump scare somebody as easily in comic books. You don't have like horror music like you might in TV movie to help set the tone. So how do you approach delivering horror within the medium of comics?
It's all for me. It's all about mood and pacing and the idea, and it's more about the idea of what scares you versus actually jumping out at you.
Mhm.
So it's just the way of and really pacing is such an important part of it. It's
Right.
you've got to be comics is all about economy of space. You don't have a lot of space. You have to, you really have to compress. So it can make some creators very nervous when you're like, no, let's take a little time getting where we're going. It definitely makes some editors nervous when you say, let's take time. Let's take time getting where we're going. But yeah, it's just about pacing it, slowing things down when they need to slow down, and then that punch. Because if you think about a novel or a short story, works the same way. You don't have a jump scare in a novel or short story. It's just the idea, the sort of the tension building up to what's about to happen and then happening, and then just the ideas of it, that hopefully some ideas that will stick with people after they're done reading the material.
Well, you're so good at that. Invasive creeped Katie out so badly that we had to stop reading it on the podcast.
It was the beautiful art of Jesus Amas and Federico Sabatini. Their art is so horrifying that I was like, all right,
Unsettling.
I think we have to stop reading this book because it's actually so spooky.
That was a fun project I forget about from time to time, but it was it was sort of one of the meaner books I've done too. It was a darker book. And that's the other thing I like about horror stories is there's so many different flavors. I can go in so many different directions with it.
Oh yeah. We absolutely loved what I think is fair to say a bit of a lighter but still kind of spooky book. Monsters Are My Business. My Business is Bloody was one of our favorite books last year. It's like such a rich world. It's so goofy and it has such a strong aesthetic to it and just phenomenal characters. What are the chances that you and Patrick are going to be revisiting that book anytime soon?
We want to. There's definitely there's a non-zero chance that we will revisit that world. We've always intended to do it. It's just it's a matter of getting it right with the publisher. Where first schedules, mainly for Patrick. I mean, he's a busy guy, but getting that right, and then getting the publishers to jump on it and move it forward. We will return to it. Sometimes the length of time between it is longer than I like, but the plan has always been to come back, and it's such a fun book. It was such a fun collaborative experience because Patrick and I started talking about doing a book together, and we started pitching. I think I sent him like, here's some ideas for this guy Grizz, and he what he does, and he sent back character sketches. And he said, and look at this koala bear.
And you said, give him a flamethrower.
I was like, all right, I guess this book has a koala bear in it now, which immediately changes the entire tone of everything. But I was in, we were in, and that's one of those things that makes comics so much fun, is that you can completely change something because it's such a collaboration. And Patrick draws a koala bear with a chainsaw, and I'm like, okay, and that's got to be in there, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it's quite a striking image.
Yeah.
But
But
you're also
speaking of upcoming projects, oh sorry, you.
no, all you buddy.
Speaking of upcoming projects, you're part of Ignition Press's new launch, or as they call it, the Ignition sequence, with
Yeah.
your book Deluge. How did you become a part of that, and can you tell us a little bit about Deluge?
Yeah. So working with Ignition is great. They're an amazing company. And I hear people say, "Well, this is a new publisher," and it is. But the people that are behind the scenes running the show at Ignition are people I've worked with for since I've been in comics, or I've known since I've been in comics. So from that perspective, it doesn't feel like like I'm working with a new company.
Right.
But then it has the excitement of releasing new books and trying new things.
Right.
And Deluge is a survival slash siege horror story. That its inspiration comes from not too far from where I live. There's this old ruined building, this massive ruined building that sits way off the highway, and it's covered in weeds that are tangled all around it. It's all just it's just a really sort of creepy structure. And I've driven by this thing for years and years and years, and eventually I got to the point where I was just researching it. What is this thing? Because if you drive up towards it, a state trooper just seems to magically appear and runs you off. Go away.
Oh
Don't
my
you can't be here. What I found out, doing research was that it was a women's correctional facility. That it was built on a floodplain, and in the 90s it flooded, and it flooded rapidly, and to the point that they had to take the inmates out on boats, like they were
Oh
ferrying
my
them out on
god.
Oh
boats,
my god.
putting them in tractor trailers and buses, and then taking them to other facilities. So I just became more and more interested in it. And when I think about the stories of the inmates, some of them, if you hear these stories, you're like, did they really deserve to be in prison for that? There's a lot of interesting elements of guilt. There's a lot of interesting elements of people who shouldn't be in prison. So Deluge is all inspired by that. It's set in a women's prison in the 90s, built on a floodplain that floods. And then something comes up in the water. As the waters are rising, the inmates are trying to evacuate. Something terrible is washed up. And then it becomes this story where everyone in it and around it have to survive these entities that are coming for them.
That's
Oh.
so rad. Do you often find yourself being inspired by, the world around you? Because a lot of your stuff is very kind of fantastical or eldritch. So it's interesting to see it coming from a grounded place.
Yeah, almost everything comes from a point of something I've seen, or someone a conversation I overhear, or people I meet on the street. I'm always looking for that kind of what's gonna inspire something next. And I keep notebooks with me, and I'm always jotting down little ideas. The other day, my wife and I went somewhere, and our radio station, it just like faded out and came back in. It was all Japanese, like whatever it was like, just like we were somehow picking up some Japanese station. And then I was like, I had to pull over and write this down, because somewhere in there there's a story. I don't know what that idea is yet, but somewhere in there there's an idea. So yeah, news stories I hear, obviously other stories I read and stuff, anything like that. I write down, little bits of inspiration that may come up, may never come back up in a story, but they're always there. That if I'm ever in a situation where I'm like, oh, I don't have an idea now, I might look through these old notebooks and start, scanning those pages for things that inspire something.
Love that.
That's awesome.
But you work with a lot of different publishers to put all of those various stories out, compared to a lot of creators who like to often make their home with one creator-owned work or one publisher. How do you decide what publisher gets what books for you?
In some cases, there's a lot of different
Oh yeah.
criteria or things that go into my mind for that. in some cases, if I'm talking to a publisher and they say they might say we're really looking for something real action oriented. All right, so then I start looking at my, my, I have a document that I update about every 6 months. That's just full of 1 paragraph pitches for comic books.
Love.
I think it's usually got about 25 to 30 ideas that are at the point where I'm like, if this were approved, I can write a book about it. Some ideas are not there. Some ideas they stay in the notebooks until I can get them to a point where I'm like, I can write a story about this. So I have this document. Sometimes I'll send that document, like I have with some publishers. I'll send that document to them, and I say, what do you like? Yeah, what do you like? And they come back and we start talking about the things they do and don't like. Sometimes the publisher says we want something that's action, or we want something that's like, real moody, or, something in a haunted house. They could get very specific. And sometimes it's just a gut feeling that, okay, this publisher's crazy enough to try this project. I'll send that to them and see what they say. But I've had editors, I when I was on Twitter, I'd post things like, I'd post a message that said something like, I just sent 10 ideas to a publisher, and another editor would always reach out and say, how come I don't have those 10 ideas? And I was like, well, here's 10 other ones. Let's see what you like. So I always try to keep, ideas like that handy and ready to go, and I just like coming up with ideas. So sometimes I just write a bunch and send them out, and even if I don't think they're going to like them. When I send those groups of ideas out, invariably the publisher always, like, there's usually one in there like, oh, this is the winner. This is the one that's gonna knock their socks off. And invariably it's the one that I put in because I'm like, I need to bulk this up a little bit. Let me just throw this crazy idea in there.
Yeah.
That's always the one that they want. They're always like, that's the one. Let's do that one. It's always very surprising to me. But I want to keep that level. I never want to get used to that, because I always want to be surprised by it. Because the minute I start saying, no, let me write the crazy idea that I know they're going to take, that takes some of the magic out of it.
Absolutely.
I want to really, just. And sometimes some of the ideas I send are really stupid, but they.
That's part of the fun of comics, right?
Right. Yeah.
But one of your favorite things that you've done recently that I really enjoy is Beyond Mortal. We reviewed Jump Scare on the pod, which was very fun because Katie hadn't read Beyond Mortal and I had.
No. Oh, that's interesting. All right, that's cool.
Yeah, we both really, really enjoyed it. But I wanted to ask you what led to the decision to follow up Beyond Mortal with Jump Scare instead of, Beyond Mortal 2.
Well, Danny Luckert and I wanted to do more. We have a lot of books we want to do in the Beyond Mortal universe. We just like that place. I like working with Danny, and we just like that world. And the original intent was to do just go into the next stage of Beyond Mortal. But we also, from the beginning, we always said, let's create like our Marvel universe, only horror based.
With Eldritch Horror.
And one of the things that, like with Marvel, there was, Fantastic Four, and but then there's Spider-Man, and there's Avengers, and they were all different books that eventually became like this cohesive or semi-cohesive universe. So I was just thinking one night, I was sitting somewhere, and I wrote Danny a text, and I said, hey, what do you think if we have a slasher who's a street level vigilante, and she can summon weapons from horror movies to use that's her main power. She can just conjure any weapon from any horror movie she's seen. And it wasn't this fast, but it seemed almost instantly. He sends me back art. Here's what she looks like. And then we just got so excited about it. And so that's why. It's just what it thrilled us right from the beginning. We got really into it. And and jump scare. I love Beyond Mortal, but jump scare is some of the most fun I've had working in comics in years. It was just so much fun. I love the character. Danny and I talk about her all the time. We have a sidekick for jump scare that we developed. Again, just I texted him one day and said, "What about a sidekick?" And this is what she does. And then he's like, "Here she is."
And he sent back an image of a koala.
No, it's not a koala. The koala I don't think fits in the world of jump scare, but who knows? I mean, honestly, how can I? Maybe there's a horror movie
Yeah,
featuring
there's
a
gotta be like
koala,
killer koalas from outer space or something.
and jump scare can just conjure that up. But yeah, I love the character. I just so I don't know what I mean, and we've got other ideas that we've put together for other characters that are sort of standalone characters in the same universe. So there's just a lot of there's a lot of pieces of Beyond Mortal. It's just figuring out how we want to develop all that.
Right.
I mean, I
So
don't
you
think
don't
there's a
have the
better
next Beyond
reason.
Mortal chapter in process right now? Okay.
Right now, there is the only thing that is even done any process work for would be a jump scare, uh, a jump scare book with the new jump scare book. But even that's really really far out there. And we've
Gotcha.
talked about just approaching it sort of in this way that the universe just exists, that we're not worrying about building it from the ground up. Because we've talked about, there's a character in Beyond Mortal called Devil X Plus, who's like this sort of teen vigilante, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if there's a Devil X Plus jump scare team up book? And that's the next thing we do, is we just do a team up book with them. So there's just all sorts of, the danger of it is it's a wealth of ideas, it's a wealth of things we get excited about, and there's not enough time in the world for us to do all those things.
Right.
I mean, I think that's probably the best way to build a unit. Like, you could tell with jump scare that it was coming from a place of passion and excitement. So I think that is the best way to get buy-in, at least from
Yeah, and jump scare like that. She's a character that, I mean, she is the horror fan. And she's me as a vigilante. She's a horror fan who turns into a superhero, and it's a book where I'm able to explore that love of the genre in a way that's not oppressively horrific. It's a fun book. And that was the other thing is and I'm pretty sure in that original text message to Danny, I think I said, let's make our Deadpool or Harley Quinn for the Beyond Mortal universe. Because that first Beyond Mortal book, full of superheroes, but it's kind of dark. It's kind of got some, it's not a light book really. So jump scare is like a nice palate cleanser for having something really dark. Then jump scare is not quite as dark, despite all the blood and gore and dismemberment.
Hey, there's a reason that I love jump scare and had to put Invasive down. It's all about tone, like you're talking about with Rated Horror. It's all about mood. But speaking of Deadpool, you recently had Deadpool kill the Marvel Universe one last time. So theoretically, he's done killing the Marvel Universe. Who do you think?
I have a pitch for a book called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe one last time again. That's what I really want to do next. I just want to just keep doing Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe books. Just endless Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe books.
A real kind of Sharknado vibe.
In theory, it's the last time, but I refuse to say we're done. I mean, I'm not going to say that definitively.
For nobody else to take up the mantle, it's always going to be Deadpool killing them. Love that.
I'm sure there are other. I think they're doing a Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe book right now. So I think look, there will come a day at some point in the future where a Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe comic comes out that Dalibor and I don't work on, and that'll be a sad day for me. I'll be beside myself. I'll be beside myself. But that's just how it works. But yeah, if I can figure out a way to pitch Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe one last time again, or Deadpool still kills the Marvel Universe. Something, just keep doing it.
That's
But
phenomenal.
but the only fun way to do that is if there's a fun angle to it.
Right.
That there's some way to do it that's different and interesting.
Right.
Because we did the first one that was just a horror, that was just a serial killer. Deadpool as Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger killing Marvel superheroes. And then the second one we did it and we were like, well, the Marvel Universe had changed in that short amount of time. There were so many new characters and so many differences. And so, well, let's just do it, but then also give tribute to all the comic books in the different eras of comics in the past. And then this new one was let's do it again when he kills the Marvel Universe, but this time he's a hero. He's doing it for the right reasons. Let's make him not just a terrible person. I mean, he is terrible, but let's make him not the villain. Let's make him not the villain of the piece.
Right.
So, yeah. So I don't know what the next one might be, but I won't say never again.
I love that. With a character like Deadpool, I feel like he's, I think iconically, a character who really rides the line between charming and annoying. How do you think you balance on that line? Because I think you did a really good job with that with Jump Scare as well, where she has that kind of personality.
Well, it's just a matter of at what point at what point does it go too far? And Deadpool, I think, is like Jump Scare. To me, I was like, okay, this is her personality, and I think people will dig the character. Deadpool has that vibe where, okay, he could get annoying real quick, and my Deadpool, like it or hate it, my Deadpool is a lot more subdued probably than Deadpool has appeared in other books. I don't have an interest in writing. He's a jokester, but I'm not really interested in writing, sort of this zany, super Looney Tunes version a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can lean into that. That's great, but I don't want it. It's not what I like going back to. So, it's just that's my style of Deadpool, and I just, I can't worry about. He's going to irritate some readers.
Of course,
that's just the way it is.
It's how he is.
Yeah, and but that's just the nature of the character. Some people are going to be irritated because he doesn't have multiple, captions in different voices. I've had readers come up and pick the book up and say, "Where's the captions?" And they toss it away because that's their Deadpool in their mind. That's the only Deadpool they want. And that's fine. That's what people like. People like what they like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just finding a balance, not pushing the joke. I don't want to go back to the well too many times on a joke because then it gets real old. Even I say that, I realize I'm saying that after I just told you I would do another Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe book in a heartbeat.
It's a really
you
deep
specified there had to be a new angle, though. You specified
a new angle, but look, I can be a little hypocritical when it comes to that kind of stuff.
You're allowed to be.
Yeah. But obviously, you've written a ton of very notable characters and properties, Deadpool being one of the most iconic. Is there anybody left on your bucket list of characters and properties that you really want to write that you haven't gotten the chance to yet?
There's a lot of characters I would like to go back to. I mean, that's a big one. There's a lot of characters I would love to have that chance to write again, like Magneto and the X-Men. I didn't, even though I wrote those characters for quite a while, I didn't get to do what I wanted to do with them. Not completely. Sinestro. I would write Sinestro in a heartbeat if someone would, if it wouldn't even be a question. It'd be, hey, Cullen, we're thinking about Sinestro. And I'm like, yep, let's do that.
Yes.
But then characters that I haven't really had a chance to, I haven't written at all or haven't written much of. Swamp Thing is a big one for me. I would love to write a Swamp Thing run. I would love to write Etrigan the Demon.
Yes.
Man Thing, all the swampy creatures I'm into.
They should have called you up for the Marvel DC to do a Man Thing Swamp Thing.
They should have. You're right. Yeah, Man Thing, Swamp Thing, Werewolf by Night, Etrigan, Etrick and the Demon, Hellblazer. Although I'm not, I feel like a Brit should be writing Hellblazer, but I'd sure like to do it. I can fake it, and Clarion the Witch Boy. I'd love to write a Clarion the Witch Boy story. I mean, you'll also notice that these characters Dr. Druid from Marvel. I would love to do a Dr. Druid book. Hellstrom at Marvel. So also all these characters I'm mentioning are characters who cannot carry a book on their own anymore. Hellblazer and Swamp Thing being the exceptions, but I'll name characters that people have never heard of all day long that I'd love to write a story about. And that's why I'm not writing those books. It's because no one's heard of them and no one cares about them except me.
You'll revitalize them.
Yeah,
that's always the dream, but it's not. I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love to write a Howard the Duck series. That I think a Howard the Duck series would be a lot of fun. But all this is nostalgia for what I loved when I was, things I was reading. So yeah, and that's really what most comic writers, I think.
Oh yeah.
If they say, "Who do you like?" they're going to name off. Some ridiculous character that they loved more than anything.
That's what makes it so fun.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's a long list of characters. Look through like the Marvel Universe books and look at all the characters that you're like, this is the dumbest character that's ever existed. I bet Cullen wants to write that. And the answer is yes. Cullen would like to write that. Cullen. There was a couple of series in the 90s, Black Wolf and Clandestine. And those series were amazing and are so deserving of a reboot. Those were from Marvel. And also in the 90s, there was a book from DC called Scare Tactics about a band with a vampire and a werewolf and Frankenstein's monster. And that book was awesome. And I'd love to do those books, but that'll never happen.
It's all right. Maybe that's your angle for the next Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. It's just all characters who haven't been in a book in 20 years.
He's just cutting the wheat from the chaff. He's just like, I'm just getting rid of these ridiculous characters that no one remembers.
Oh, that'll sell.
Deadpool Kills the Forgotten Marvel Universe.
There you go. There's a new angle.
I'll send that email right after this discussion. I'll send that.
Perfect. But we'll let you get to that because that's something that I think I would definitely want to see. But Cullen, thank you so much for coming on today. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Is there anything that you want to, tell people that's coming up or where they can find you, anything like that?
Yeah. So Deluge comes out, like we mentioned Deluge. It comes out the first issue in October. That's a big one for me. My first adult prose horror novel comes out in November. It's called Bones of Our Stars, Blood of Our World. So that comes out from Gallery Books in November. So if you like books without pictures, go look for that. And I will say it's a big thick horror novel, but it moves real. I think it's a very fast paced book. I think if you're a fan of comics and fan of sort of the kind of things I've done in comics, you'll love this book and have a lot of fun with it. I don't talk about what it's about too much. It's a slasher book, but there's a moment in the book where you'll say, "What just happened to me?" and how will we ever go back from this? Because it takes some real insane turns. And then if you're a horror fan, if you look up on YouTube, I have a channel where I talk about horror a lot now. I'm starting where I talk to people. We make recommendations on comics, on books, on movies and shows. It is called the Cullenoscopy. That you can find that on. It's a deep exploration of the genre. So check that out. And then you can find my website cullenbunn.com. You can get to all my social media, my newsletter. I do a newsletter every week that I just pack with all sorts of random information.
Oh, it's great. I love your newsletter.
So any of those things, check those out if you're at all interested.
We'll link all your social media, your newsletter, everything in the description so people can, get there quickly. But
Sounds good.
Thank you again. It was awesome talking to you.
Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much again to Mr. Cullen Bunn for coming on the podcast. We're so excited we got to talk to him. So much good stuff in there, and so much good stuff to come from him. Make sure you go and pick up Deluge #1 and, put Deluge #2 on your pull list. But if you don't want to go all the way out to your comic book stuff, just to shop to get Deluge #1, we have your hookup right here. Jay, what are the rules for our giveaway?
Yes. Well, the first most important thing to know is that you have to be in the US to get free shipping. You can still win outside of the US, but you are then going to have to pay the shipping costs associated with getting it to you. But assuming you're in the US, it's a very simple process. Be subscribed to the channel. Do that. Make sure that you subscribe to the Script Heals channel. And then all you have to do is leave a comment on this video, and you will be entered immediately for a chance to win a signed copy of Deluge. You could also get bonus entries if you want to, stack the deck in your favor by going back to other episodes where we reviewed Cullen Bunn Books and leaving comments on those videos. I'll link a bunch in the description. We reviewed a bunch of his books, so I probably won't be able to link them all. You can try to find extra ones, but you'll get as many entries as you comment on Cullen Bunn related videos.
That's right. Lots of chances to win. Very, very cool. Again, that's a signed copy of #1 with the Ignition Press exclusive cover. So lots of excitement in that one little bag and board there. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Script Heroes channel. Be sure to hit subscribe if you want to see even more interviews from us. We have regular episodes every Monday and every weekend. Every Wednesday and every weekend, rather. So be sure to check those out as well.
And as always, hopefully see you next week. Comic Geeks,